The warning the galaxy was quiet. Stars burned peacefully. Trade routes were open. Worlds were calm. Then came the message. It traveled faster than light. It didn't knock. It didn't ask. It just arrived. Run, human, or be destroyed. The message came from the most feared empire in the galaxy, an empire that had conquered thousands of species. No one had stopped them. No one had survived a direct war, but Earth wasn't like other planets and humans didn't run. In a dark control room on Earth's moon, officers read the message again and again. It was simple, brutal, final. The room stayed silent. One officer looked up and said, "This is not a warning. It's a threat." The leader, calm and serious, replied, "No, it's an invitation." The message had been sent by the Terran Dominion, the oldest and deadliest empire in the galaxy. They never talked first. They never warned. But for Earth, they made an exception. Why? No one knew. Some said it was because humans had grown too fast. Others said Earth was a threat before first contact ever happened. But the truth was simpler. The Terran wanted to see if humans would panic. On Earth, people saw the message within hours. It was everywhere. News channels, screens, even on school walls. Run, human, or be destroyed. Some were afraid. Some laughed. Some didn't believe it was real. But behind the scenes, world leaders met in deep bunkers. Old emergency plans were opened. Codes were activated that hadn't been touched in 100 years. Earth had seen this day coming, and it had prepared. The Galactic Council sent a private message to Earth. They said, "Surrender. It's better to lose your pride than your planet." But Earth sent nothing back. Far out in space, a human ship was already moving. It was not big, not fast, not part of any known fleet. It had no markings, no signal. It was silent and dark. It drifted toward the edge of Terran space. The Terran picked it up quickly. A commander on their war station laughed. "One small ship? Are they testing us?" The order was given. "Destroy it." 3 Empire warships locked on and fired. But something went wrong. The first Empire ship exploded before it could launch a second shot. The second one lost power. The third never sent a signal again. The human ship remained, not damaged, not moving, just waiting. On the Empire's homeworld, their top generals watched the footage. "That was not a scout," one said. The Emperor's voice came through a deep speaker. What was it? They didn't know, but now they were angry and afraid. Back on Earth, the leader of the Global Defense Council stood before a group of hidden commanders. "We will not wait for them to come. They sent a threat. We send a reply." "What's the message, sir?" one asked. The leader smiled. "We don't run." In the coming hours, hidden bases lit up across Earth's moons and deep in space. Satellites activated. Warships decloaked. Earth's real power had never been shown before. Not because it was weak, but because it was watching and learning. Meanwhile, deep in a quiet region of space, another human ship appeared. This one was older, slower, but it carried something different. Inside was a crew that had trained in silence for years. They weren't soldiers, they were watchers. Their job? To understand the enemy. And they had one mission now: enter Terran space, stay hidden, and report everything. The Terran Empire thought they had sent fear. But what they started was far worse. They had pulled the string on something they didn't understand. Humanity didn't shout. Humanity didn't beg. Humanity prepared. One rebel species hiding in the shadows of Terran space picked up the human signal. They translated it. It said only, "We do not run. We remember everything." The rebels smiled. "Maybe this time," one whispered, "the humans will finish what we could not." Above Earth, the stars looked the same. But everything had changed. The deadliest empire in the galaxy had spoken. And now, humanity was getting ready to answer, not with fear, not with peace, but with war. The first clash, the Terran Empire was silent, but not for long. After losing 3 warships to a single unknown human vessel, they called it a glitch, a mistake, a anime trick. But deep inside, they felt something they hadn't felt in 1,000 years. Doubt. The Emperor ordered a response, not a message. Not a warning. A fleet, 70 ships, fast, armed, proud, sent straight toward the edge of human space. Their mission: wipe out the human system in one blow. Back on Earth, the skies looked normal. Birds flew, oceans waved, children played. But in orbit it was different. A silent alarm spread across the Terran defense grid. One word flashed on every private screen: they're coming. The Terran fleet moved fast. Their ships didn't cloak, they didn't hide, they didn't need to. No species had ever stopped them. But as they neared the edge of human space, they saw nothing. No ships. No response. Just black space. The Terran commander laughed. They ran, just like the rest. But then his smile vanished. One human ship uncloaked. It hovered between the Terran fleet and the nearest human outpost. It was not large. It was not loud. It didn't speak. It simply powered up its weapons. The Terran commander gave the order: destroy it. 12 Terran ships locked on. They fired in perfect formation, but their shots missed. Not because they aimed wrong, because the human ship moved faster than their sensors could track. It weaved between the blasts, then fired once, just once. A bright, blue beam shot forward, split in 3, and cut through 4 Terran ships like paper. Alarms screamed. The fleet scattered, but it was too late. More human ships decloaked. Not many, only 7, but each one destroyed with the precision of a machine and the fury of a storm. The Terran fleet had numbers. Humans had war-born strategy. Inside one human ship, a quiet voice spoke: engage Phase 2. Suddenly, the area around the Terran fleet changed. What looked like empty space, there was a trap. Dozens of small human drones activated. They were disguised as debris, but now they lit up red. Each one carried a gravity core, and in seconds, the Terran fleet was pulled apart, spinning, twisting, firing at each other. The human ships moved like hunters, not like prey. For every human blast, another Terran ship burned. Their command ship tried to call for help, but the signal was blocked. By what? A hacked Terran satellite now under human control. By the end of the hour, only 3 Terran ships remained. They fled into hyperspace, wounded, terrified, and silent. Back on Earth, no one cheered, no music played, because it wasn't over. This was only the first clash, and humans knew how war worked. They had studied the Terran. They had trained in secret. They didn't want peace talks. They wanted the enemy to understand: humans do not run. In a dark hall of the Terran Empire, the Emperor sat in silence. One of his generals, shaking, reported the loss. The Emperor asked just one question: how many humans did we face? The general swallowed hard. 7 ships, go, sir. Only 7. Silence. Then the Emperor stood and said something the galaxy had never heard from him before. Prepare everything, all fleets, all weapons. We will burn Earth to dust. But across the stars, others had seen the battle. The silent watchers. Thighs, hidden species, the broken rebels. They whispered to each other. The humans didn't run. Maybe now. The Empire will. The mistrap, the Terran Empire, was angry. They had lost ships, lost soldiers, lost face. The Emperor ordered a full assault, 1,000 ships. No more warnings, no more messages. Earth was now an enemy, and the order was simple: erase them. But as the mighty Terran fleet entered human space, they found mist, not ships, not planets, not weapons, just a long, strange field of thick, glowing mist stretching across the stars. The Terran commanders scanned the area. Where is Earth? They asked. No answer. Their systems showed nothing but silence. The fleet moved forward, confident. Ready. Then one ship vanished. No signal. No distress call, just gone. At first, the Terran thought it was a system error, until it happened again. And again. Ship after ship entered the mist and didn't come out. The fleet stopped. Now they were surrounded by fog and fear. One captain screamed into the comms, "We're not alone." In the command ship, the Terran High General watched his display flicker. Red blips were blinking out. Then the mist changed. It began to swirl. Move. Think. Inside the fog, something was hunting. Human stealth drones. Fast. Sharp. Invisible. Each one moved like a ghost. Each one carried weapons designed not just to destroy, but to confuse. They hit engines, sensors, shields. They cut communication. The Terran ships were being blinded, not killed, because humans wanted something more powerful than destruction. Terror. One ship tried to retreat, but was pulled back by a gravity tether. Another turned its weapons on itself, tricked by hacked systems. A third exploded, and the mist swallowed the flames. For the first time in Terran history, a full fleet gave the order. Fall back. Back on Earth, in a hidden control room beneath the oceans, the human war planner watched the data. The plan was working. The mist. Field wasn't just random, it was designed. A mix of artificial clouds, signal interference, and hidden weaponry, not to destroy the Empire's fleet, but to break its spirit. The plan had a name, Operation Mirror. Because in the fog, the Terran couldn't see what was real. They only saw what humans wanted them to see. Across the galaxy, observers watched in silence. A few rebel ships sneaked into the mist to collect the remains. What they found shocked them. Terran, tech, dead ships, but no human presence. It was like the fleet had been destroyed by ghosts. One rebel captain whispered, "These humans, they are not fighters. They are hunters." Back in the Terran capital, the Emperor received the report. 200 ships lost, no human bodies found, no known weapons used, just fog, confusion, and defeat. The Emperor smashed his throne. "Enough tricks," he shouted. "Send the purge, fleet. Burn everything between us and Earth." But even as the Empire prepared its largest attack ever, something else was happening. A signal. Weak. Cracked. But powerful in its meaning. It came from deep within Empire territory. Not human. Not Terran, a message from a forgotten world. Earth. We saw your battle. We're ready to rise. One by one, small rebel factions across the stars began waking up. They had been quiet for centuries, but now they had hope. Not because Earth won battles, but because Earth fought without fear and didn't run. The hidden war, the Terran Empire believed the war had just begun, but for Earth, the war had started years ago. Long before the first message, before the first clash, before the mist. In a dark corner of space, far from known maps, a human stealth ship floated between dead stars. No lights, no signal. Inside, only 2 words, glowed on the main screen. Phase 4. Awake the Watchers. These were not soldiers. These were Earth's Watchers, the Shadow Fleet, trained in silence, hidden in deep space, waiting for the order that would never be made public. While the world slept, they had been collecting secrets, watching the Empire, recording every battle, every weakness, every silent rebellion, and now they moved. Back on Earth, the leader of the Global Defense Network stood before a black wall screen. It showed the galaxy, but not in stars. It was marked in red. Each dot was a silent Empire outpost. Each one was now under human surveillance. "Begin the strikes," the leader said. "Quiet ones." At the edge of the Terran system, small explosions began. A station vanished. A relay went dark. Fuel lines exploded in silence. No signals. No noise. Just confusion. The Empire thought it was sabotage, but it wasn't. It was precision. Human agents hidden for years inside alien societies were waking up and striking back. One such agent, long thought dead, emerged on a slave world. He didn't fight. He simply opened the gates from the inside, and thousands of alien workers walked free. They didn't run. They took up arms. The Terran Empire was used to wars, but not this. Not invisible war. They couldn't see their enemy. They couldn't trace the attacks. They couldn't stop the silence. It was like fighting smoke. Inside the Empire's main archives, someone had written a single line across the database wall. "We were always here." No cameras had recorded it. No guard saw the intruder, but the message reached the Emperor. He stared at the words in silence. "They're not fighting us," he whispered. "They're undoing us." In secret chambers, the Empire had stored thousands of stolen artifacts, weapons, machines, data. Now, one by one, those chambers were exploding, not by fire, but by code. Human viruses planted years ago, now activated. Ancient tech was now melting. Records were erasing. Even the Empire's own memories were dying. Elsewhere, rebel ships rose from forgotten systems. They didn't have much, but they had rage, and now they had proof that the Empire could be hurt. They called it the Silent Storm, and Earth was the storm's heart. One rebel broadcasted a simple message across open space. "You feared the Empire, now fear the silence. Because the humans live in it." The Terran military panicked. They launched blind attacks, burned entire regions, chased shadows. But the more they fired, the more enemies appeared. The Emperor called for his inner circle. "What do they want?" he asked. No one could answer. Then a new message arrived, not through normal channels, not through tech. It was hand-delivered, on a drone. Metal burned, words carved into the side. It said, "This is not revenge. This is correction." The Emperor stared at the words for a long time. He whispered, "They don't want to win. They want to erase us." And they were right. Because this wasn't a normal war. This was a hidden war. A war that started before the galaxy noticed. And by the time they did, humanity was already inside the heart of the Empire. Rise of the Silent Fleet. The Terran Empire had counted the stars. They had mapped every system. They thought they knew every threat. But there was one thing they never saw coming. Not because it was weak, but because it was silent. In the cold, dark beyond, the galactic rim, massive objects began to move. They had been sleeping for decades. No lights, no sound, no signals. Then, one blinked awake. Then another. Then hundreds. A small scout ship from a neutral world passed by one of these dark forms. Its pilot barely had time to record what he saw before his ship lost all power. In his last log, he whispered, "I think I just saw a fleet, but no one's flying them." The Silent Fleet had returned, created in secret, hidden in deep space. Each ship had no crew, no windows, just purpose. Each one was powered by an old machine core, half AI, half something older. They didn't need orders. They just waited for the signal, and now they had it. Earth's signal reached. The outer rim, a simple activation code. One humans never shared with anyone. Project Echo. Begin. The galaxy shook. Over 100,000 ships powered up, all human-built, all unknown to the Terran Empire. They came from asteroid belts, dead moons, even hollowed-out stars. No engines roared. They just moved, like they had always been part of the void. The Terran Empire scrambled its forces. Satellites caught glimpses, only shadows at first, then full scans. They thought it was a joke. This many ships? Impossible. The Emperor stood and roared. How? But the answer had already arrived. Back on Earth, a hidden AI spoke to the command council. This fleet was not built in one day. It was not built for one war. It was built for one message: you will never control us. In the outer colonies of the Empire, rebel factions rose again, but this time they didn't rise alone. The Silent Fleet was there. One ship landed on a prison world. It had no crew. Just a door, Inside, weapons, food, medical supplies, and a human message. Fight back. We are with you. The rebellion exploded. Now it wasn't just humans fighting. It was a storm of broken species, united under one idea. No more running. The Terran Empire launched its biggest attack ever, a fleet so large it blocked out 3 suns. They moved toward the Silent Fleet's last known path. But when they arrived, there was nothing, only dust. No ships, no stations, no signals. Then a single message came through. Too late. At that same moment, alarms echoed inside the Empire's capital. The Silent Fleet had bypassed their front lines. They had dropped behind enemy borders. They were inside core space, and they were not alone. Earth's main fleet arrived moments later, loud, bright, direct. While the Silent Fleet stayed in the shadows, Earth's warships lit up the skies. It was a two-sided strike, one from the dark, one from the fire, and the Empire was caught in the middle. Back on the Empire's throne world, the Emperor stood before a burning screen, his strongest fleet gone, his walls broken, his skies filled with unknown ships. He stared into the smoke and whispered, "Where did they come from?" A voice behind him answered, "From the silence you never noticed." Across the galaxy, people watched the battle unfold, not with fear, with hope. Because the Silent Fleet wasn't just war, it was proof that even in the dark someone had been watching, preparing. And when the time came, humanity didn't run, it returned. The answer, the Empire begged, not with pride, not with power, but with fear. After the Silent Fleet burned through their borders and Earth's main warships took the skies, the once invincible Terran Empire sent a final message. We request peace. It was the first time in 1,000 years the Terran had spoken that word. The galaxy froze. Planets stopped their defense. Pirates, traitors, rebels, all waited to see if Earth would accept. But Earth didn't answer. Not yet. Inside a command ship above the fallen Terran colonies, the human leader watched the message play again. The voice trembled. It didn't sound like the Empire, it sounded broken. A voice behind the leader asked, "What do we do now?" He didn't blink. We give them the answer. The human fleet didn't move forward. It moved around. It surrounded the Empire's last strongholds, but didn't fire. It blocked all exits, all trade lines, all jump routes. The message was clear. You're not dead. But you're done. On the Empire's throne world, silence filled the royal hall. The Emperor stood alone, his generals gone, his fleet shattered. He looked to the stars and whispered, "We ruled for so long. How did it end like this?" Then a voice answered through a nearby screen. Simple, calm, human. "You ruled through fear, but you never earned respect. We don't want your throne. We want the galaxy free." Across hundreds of systems, prison worlds were opened. Not by force, but by access codes. Human AI had broken into the Empire's master network. Gates opened. Fields dropped. Slaves walked out, not to escape, but to rise. And every one of them had heard Earth's message, "Stand up. You are not alone." In a neutral space station, representatives from 10 species met. All had once been enemies. All had once feared the Terran. Now they sat together because of Earth. And they agreed. No one would ever rule the stars again. Not alone. Not through force, but through unity. Earth was offered leadership, a galactic throne, but they refused. Instead, they created something new, a free council. All species, all voices, no empire, and Earth would watch to make sure the darkness never returned. Back on Earth, people looked to the skies. They saw lights they'd never seen before. Ships returning, allied banners flying, peace blooming, but they knew this was not the end. Because even as the Empire fell, deep in the void, something moved. A long-dead Terran vault opened on a distant moon. Inside, old machines blinked awake. A message played in an ancient tongue. If this message plays, The Empire has fallen. Then rise and finish what they could not. The screen went dark, but the stars flickered, like something had blinked. On Earth's flagship, the human leader stood by the window, watching space. Someone asked, "Is it over?" He shook his head. "No, but this part is finished." He turned to the stars and said, "We answered their question. We didn't run. Now let's see who dares to ask again." The last message piece had arrived, or so they thought. The galaxy was quiet. Terran banners were gone. Star routes were open. Worlds once silenced were singing again. Humans didn't rule. They didn't need to. They had changed everything. In space stations and rebuilt cities, aliens told stories. About how Earth stood when others ran. About how humans fought like fire and moved like shadows. And how they answered fear with fury. But deep in the void, far beyond any star map, something ancient had awakened. A scout ship from a neutral world picked up a signal. Not a distress call, not a war cry, a whisper. Broken, cracked, and human. If you're hearing this, the Terran failed. But something worse is coming. The signal was traced to a dead zone, a black system. No light, no heat, no orbiting life. But when probes entered it, they vanished, no wreckage, no sound, just gone, and then another signal followed. This one wasn't from a human. It wasn't in any known language. It was old. Too old. Earth's AI struggled to translate it, but one word finally broke through. Return. On Earth, alarms lit up in red. Commanders stared. At the translation in silence, someone whispered, "Who's calling us?" A deep voice answered from behind. Not someone. Something. Back in the far stars, the Terran's forgotten vault continued to open. Not just one. Hundreds. Each one older than the Empire itself. Inside were machines, creatures, data cubes with warnings scratched in hundreds of languages, and all of them said the same thing. If humans rise, awaken the architects, or the architects. Even the Terran had feared them. They were not kings. They were not soldiers. They were the first, the original rulers of the stars. Earth's fleets began to move again, not to attack, not to defend, but to search. To find what was calling out from the edge of the galaxy. Because humans didn't run from war, and they didn't hide from history. They chased it. In the last scene, a Terran scout ship reached the black system. The stars vanished behind it. Inside the ship, silence. Then one final message played, on every screen. You didn't run, human, good. Now let's see if you survive. What comes next?